go live in about 10 seconds here.
Hello, how are you?
Joe, what'd I just say? I'm just kidding. I'm just
You said
kidding.
you're going
I'm
live?
totally kidding.
You said you're going
Yeah.
live in a few minutes.
Yes, 10 seconds. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we'll start, just a couple quick notes before we take roll. Just a reminder, we're live and recorded, so from moving on forward through the rest of the meeting. And also, we have the privilege of having Scott here. If you see him in the back, he's gonna be taking some footage, just to have on file at the administrator's office. So if you see him moving around, just
Smile.
ignore him and smile. Yeah, there you go. All right, well, thanks for joining us, Scott. All right, go ahead with roll, Kyle.
Okay, Rice,
Yes.
Longstreet,
Here.
McCaffrey,
Here.
Belcamp, Bush,
Here.
Greenlee,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Allison,
Here.
Jim,
Here.
Sachs.
All right, I think Paul's on vacation this week, it sounds like. So we'll move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. I don't think we have any, but since we have Frank here, thanks for joining us, Frank, from the Shoreline Amateur Astronomical Association. We're going to go ahead and move that item under new business from G to A, and then everything else will just be renumbered sequentially. So that will be the first one on our agenda for new business. But other than that, we should be all set with the agenda. All right, with that, we have moving on to the May minutes, since we did not meet in June. So hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at the May meeting minutes. And if we have a motion to go ahead and approve those.
So moved.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lucas.
Support.
All right. Thank you, Linda. So we have motion by Lucas, support from Linda. Any questions, edits, additions? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, minutes are approved. Communications, I don't believe we have any this month, so that will take us to our first public comment period. So for those of the members of the public in the audience who'd like to make a public comment, please fill out a registration card. I have one right now, but Kyle right here has the cards, or they should be on the table actually, if you'd like to fill one out, if you'd like to speak. And when you're called upon, please come forward and state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to make your comments, but it won't necessarily be a back and forth at all. And for those of you in attendance on the YouTube channel, if you want to submit a written public comment at any time during the month, please feel free and note the Ottawa County Parks email address. It's in the video description at the top of your screen. So we have David Barnofsky. Would you like to? No? Okay. All right. We will have a second public comment opportunity at the end as well. So. All right, and we will open up the staff reports with the director's report. So Jason, we'll put you on first.
Just a couple quick highlights. Make sure everybody can hear me okay. The Harbor Island, the city of Grand Haven, they presented their concept plan. So several staff were in attendance as well as some other stakeholders. There are 3 plans that preliminary concepts that they got feedback from the community and then presented to their city council. So they are continuing to work to evaluate essentially the contaminations on site and then formulate a plan for remediation. So there will be several years likely before that really is ready to move forward. So we have our NIFWIF, so it's not sustainability, coastal resiliency grant that then we have kicked off that will evaluate the various wetlands and do inventories, as well as come up with some nature-based restoration efforts that will incorporate both Ottawa Sands as well as the riverfront at Ottawa Sands and Harbor Island. So we'll provide that information as we go. So the, and then from June, the consumers had their stakeholder meeting for the J.H. Campbell site. I've included the timeline that they shared in the packet, so still ceasing operations in mid-2025, and then starting the decommissioning process. One of the things that it was worth noting, they did acknowledge the Federal Energy Regulation Commission license that ties to the boardwalk out to the jetty. So, and their obligation to continue to maintain that for another close to 50 years. So it's tied to the Ludington Pump Station operation. So that for us means that that infrastructure, even after they close in 2025, will stay in place. So, and then we'll coordinate with DNR on the future of all of that site. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jason? Comments? I just had one super quick one. So I think HDR or the consultant put
For
together those
Harbor
concepts.
Island.
Yeah,
right?
for
Yes.
Harbor Island. So are we going to be collaborating with them at some point or coordinating with them at some point with the parks grant?
So we will, and so they'll be right intimately involved in that. And then once we near completion on that, it's the city's site. So
Right.
hopefully the findings we have, they'll incorporate. I think this HDR had a contract to complete this work. They completed the work.
right.
It's going to be several years as they still monitor the site and what type of remediation will be needed. But this gave some concept plans on what could happen with that in the future. So, and I think various groups have shared a lot of different input, but for us, it was a focus on restoration and keeping the site relatively natural, and that's what all three of the sites, all three of the concept plans include to some extent. So,
Great. Perfect. All right, we will keep moving on with the park operations report that we have. We've got all of the staff reports pretty much have 2 months worth of reporting, so it's some good info in here. I don't, Bob, is there anything you wanted to highlight?
Well, the only thing that really that I feel needs to be highlighted is that we worked with T2 Systems for our pay stations, and now all of our pay stations for annual and daily permits along the lake shore and at Riverside are multilingual. So now they're both English and Spanish. And otherwise else, if you have any questions that I can answer, I'll be happy to do so.
Anybody have anything for Bob? All right. All right, we'll keep going then with the planning and development report. And I know, Aaron, are you gonna field that this month?
Yeah, if there's any questions about the reports, specific ones, I'll mention something that we're working on. The Great Lakes Fisheries Trust has different grants for either like habitat rehabilitation or in this case, an access to fisheries grant. So it's if you're on Lake Michigan or near Lake Michigan or on a tributary that's near Lake Michigan, they'll fund like access improvements. For instance, the Historic Ottawa Beach has a boardwalk that goes into Lake Makatawa that was funded by this grant program. It's only done every 2 years. So, and the RFP just went out in June. So it has a very short window so we're gonna maybe stretch and looking in an application for renovating one of the docks at Ottawa Sands in the Grand River. That's currently being engineered as part of this grant project that Jason had mentioned that GEI and a team is working on. It'll be early for that. We have some cost estimates that we'll include. We're going to talk with them and see if we can put it together. It's due August 16th. So just wanted to let you know that we might be working on that. But it is not a lot of detail because we tried to talk to the Fisheries Trust earlier. We just talked to them earlier this week and decided that that's something it was feasible to try it. And it doesn't require any match. That's another reason.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
really? Oh.
Yeah, so we do technically have match for the engineering
Mhm.
that we're already working on, so that's eligible. So, maybe a long shot, but I think we're gonna end up at somewhere between a $250,000 and $300,000 ask on that. And they don't have a ton of, it's $750,000, I think is what they have. So otherwise, we have to wait 2 years to
Yeah.
do, and this makes sense. It's in the master plan and something we're engineering, and it seems like a viable project for them.
Nice. Good. Any questions for Erin on that report?
I just have one.
Yeah.
Any idea when the trail at Ottawa Sands might be open, or is it ever gonna wait until the end of the?
So we're working internally on trying to develop some signage so that both for twofold, provide some background and interpretation on the restoration work on site, and explains kind of what happened. So I'm not sure how far along. So that's the last thing we really want to do to make sure that people are aware of where to go, and then also the progress on the site as it is. So any
Kind of, sort of.
I'll just talk really loud, which I'm good at. You guys know that. So yeah, we're in the process of getting the interp signage drafted, and really, I think that's really important because we've gotten a lot of feedback online about like, why are there trees in the lake? You know, like just trying. We did so much work there, and we actually had a really cool tour with Audubon, Great Lakes Audubon, the other day, and they were so excited about all the work that we're doing. So we really want folks to, it's a good opportunity to talk about what we're doing and why it's important. So that's just on the punch list to get done. And it's probably a couple weeks out because we've got fewer than 10 signs, but quite a few along the lake and then some of the other restoration areas, and then just trail maps too, so folks know where they're going and what's where. So those are kind of still in process, correct? So hope we got together a week or so ago. I think we're getting together next week to get to have more signage conversation and move it along in drafts. Riley's working on that right now, actually. So
That's perfect. Thank you.
Question. Anyone else? All right, we will move on to the community engagement report. Jess?
all right. So a lot has been going on. I was like, oh man, yeah, we got May too. So just, I know we're kind of far past that being in July, but we were really excited to have a school program every weekday in May. There was something going on, sometimes two things. So it was just really fun to be busy and out and about. Scott, who's getting B-roll for us now, is working on a couple videos for us that we'll talk a little bit more at the Community Engagement Committee about. But one of them is an Ottawa Sands documentary, which I'm super stoked about. Yeah, and it's just been, we've had a lot going on. We did get, I noted in May that we have a program supervisor who's certified to do CPR and AED courses. All of those dummies and other materials came yesterday, lots of boxes. There's lots of random babies that are laying around the nature center. So anyway, it was like, oh, what's going on here? Yeah, it's not, and they're not mine, right? So yeah, just lots of really, really fun, cool things going on. We've had quite a few large events that we've been part of, either kind of with friends or on our own. Those have been just very successful in helping us cast a wide net and trying to get more folks who aren't familiar with either the nature center or what Parks does, more engaged in some of the programming and education stuff that we have going on. So yeah, we've been all over the place, and I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you guys might have.
Quick question. So the staff member who's now certified, will that allow us to offer the camps full-time? Wasn't that a barrier?
It's no.
Okay. Not quite yet.
No, not quite. That's a little bit more complicated, but we are kind of working on solving that in a couple of other different ways, and
Good.
I can
Okay.
get into that in more detail at some point. But it is, a lot of it is, turns out licensing for day camps that serve as daycare replacement is like super complicated. Lots of licensing. So, but we will be able to do, so it's Noel who's certified, so he'll be able to train our staff. So we've gotten before kind of like an overview from the sheriff's department, but this way our OEs can be certified, and we can actually, you know, have them certified through the Red Cross, and we can also offer classes to the general public as well.
Okay.
So when we've talked about doing that, some more kind of focused on trail use. So you know, nothing like the first responders, not that intense, but I'm thinking it'll make everyone feel a lot more comfortable for sure.
Nice. Good. Any other questions for Jess? All right, we will keep rolling with the Natural Resources Management Report. Neely?
Right. Yeah, likewise, a lot has been going on the last couple months, obviously, big months for the stewardship world. Stewardship staff has been super busy doing a lot of invasive removal, obviously. Also, HWA work has started again, which is exciting, a little depressing, but exciting and totally necessary. Obviously, they're working on HWA at Kirk Park right now, and I think they're about half done, which is impressive. I do want to point out, too, this is the first summer that we have been fully staffed with stewardship staff. So they are getting a lot done. I've been really impressed so far, and I'm excited to see at the end of the year how much we've been able to get done. Also, Tyler's had some really great ideas in his first full season. So also restoration work at Ottawa Sands has pretty much wrapped up. So all the planting has been done, the seeding has been done, the structures have been placed, shoreline graded, all that exciting stuff. We do have some contingency money left over. So I'm working with Brian from GEI on how we're going to spend some of that extra money, probably some more plantings, just to really ensure the success of the native plantings in those areas. So we were pretty excited to not have to use that money for any unknowns. Also, one thing about the volunteer program, we do have public volunteer work days starting up again in early fall. Carly and I have been working on kind of rebranding them, and she is calling them Service Saturdays or Public Service Saturdays beginning in August. So we're going to start offering them once a month year round, in the hopes that consistency will start to encourage people to show up more regularly. So we're pretty excited about that. Plus the alliteration always helps, right? Public Service Saturdays. But I think that's about it, unless anyone has any questions for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So HWA at Kirk Park, is that what you mentioned? And do you know, like how many, I mean, is it primarily just the parks along the lake shore or are they?
Mostly, but it
yeah.
is starting to move inland, mostly along bodies of water. So Hemlock Crossing, we have found HWA there. So it's on our list probably for next year to survey and then hopefully treat. Also, I have heard about HWA being found at Hoffma Preserve in Grand Haven Township. Last I heard, I think the township was working with the conservation district, or at least talking to the conservation district about treatments there, because that would be pretty important. There was also the first inland non-landscaping related incidents of HWA, I think was in the like a swampy area near 112th and Osborne. And I think that was like 2 years ago now. So it is moving inland, mostly spread by birds along waterways, but I mean, obviously it can move other ways too. So it's here.
Did we coordinate with the city of Grand Haven on the, at Mulligan's Hollow and that area back in the day?
They're working with the conservation district with that.
They are, okay.
Yeah, so I believe the conservation district did initial treatments there in like 2018, 2019.
Early
Don't quote me
on,
that,
yeah.
but I think they're talking about doing retreatments and kind of gauging the longevity of some of those treatments right now. And then at the cemetery as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Also, we're working with the Conservation District. They were just awarded grant funds to treat public lands in Ottawa County, large parcels that were prioritized. So they're actually treating Rosemount for us. Unfortunately, they aren't able to treat it until next year because of the timing of the grant funding, but we're excited about it because that's about 2,400 hemlocks that we don't have to provide the resources to treat, and obviously that's a really high priority area for us. So
Neely, what kind of, is it, the treatments, are they spray then generally, or?
So
How do they do
it
that?
depends. So our preferred method of treatment is injection.
Okay,
However, and I mean, just because it's so targeted. So the
Right.
pesticide that we use will obviously affect other insects.
Right.
So we want to affect as few insects as possible. And because hemlocks are wind pollinated, their pollinators aren't being affected. But so we're injecting the chemical right into the tree unless the tree is too small to withstand those injections.
Right.
So if the diameter of the tree is less than 4.5 inches in diameter, then we're doing basal bark sprays. So which also really targets it and limits exposure for off-target pests. So with the small trees, basically they move the leaf litter aside and spray the trunk of the tree starting around 4 feet and then down to the root flare. And then any overspray will fall into the soil underneath the tree and be taken up by the tree.
Good.
Sorry, that was probably more explanation than you were asking.
no,
for, but
that helps, actually. That was great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yesterday I noticed some house finches were making a nest in one of my planter boxes. I'm like, I'm getting rid of that thing before they lay eggs in there. And it was entirely made out of hemlock branches that were completely infested with HWA.
That's such
And
an
I'm like
interesting observation.
136, so that's moving up, moving inland. So, but my neighbor's on top of it. I'm like, hey, you guys get your hemlocks treated.
That's
so.
such an interesting anecdote.
Yeah, it was weird. We don't even, so.
I wouldn't even thought of it that way, right?
I should have, but I threw it. Well, I didn't throw it. I collected the branches, but anyway, so. Yeah, it's spreading, unfortunately. Okay, anything else for Neely? All right, thanks, Neely. The development report. Jason, did you want to give a little update on Glenn?
Well,
What's
so
happening?
Glenn's off for several weeks. So he completed the June report and the July report. I think the big notable activity that happened during this time frame was we had a very successful event, breakfast lunch event at Grand Ravines, and we, I think, officially have broken the record as the largest ever. So Angela's here. She'll speak a little bit later. So, which is really exciting that that went so well. So, but happy to answer any questions from his report in there.
Any big questions?
Is the $30,000 grant from Fry, is that,
So that would be for the Rosie Mound acquisition development.
okay. that's
So
for
we
Rosemary.
have a number of pending
Yep.
requests out for that. So, and Glenn's absent, so Aaron and I had a conference call today with a corporation who's been a supporter in the past. I did a tour of Ottawa Sands yesterday, and then 2 weeks ago, right? So it was actually Glenn's last day. We hosted a really successful just meet and greet and trying to expand kind of the presence of the Parks Foundation. So one of our longtime supporters hosted just a meet and greet and had coffee, and it was very well attended, and yeah.
Good.
So
Anyone else? All right, we will keep going. The strategic plan progress report. I don't know if you have anything to add to that now, Jason, or if we're going to go over it on the old business item.
we can talk about it when we get to old business,
Okay.
unless
okay.
there's any questions on that in particular.
Sounds good. All right, we will move on to the committee reports. First one is the executive committee meeting. We did meet in June, even though there was no meeting, and I think we all agreed that we didn't need a June Parks meeting. So that was the main topic there. Just kind of got some updates on the strategic planning process. And then July 15th, we met, went over the proposed agenda for today, the strategic plan updates, talked a little bit about an Ottawa Sands tour that might be coming up in August. Got a little update on the development report that we just went over, and talked a little about the Friends of Ottawa County Park MOU that's being renewed. So happy to take any questions. All right, Planning Committee. Lucas, do you have an update for June?
Sure. So there was a lot of discussion about Ottawa Sands and looking at some, I guess, call it some icing on the cake type amenities and some needed infrastructure for staff out there, and just kicking some ideas around with staff and giving some feedback there. Lighting and EV chargers and fun stuff like that were talked about. And then there was, numerous other things. I'd be happy to answer any questions on. It was a while ago, but there's Bend area. We talked, or that information on that is included in your packet today. So any questions, be happy to answer them.
None for Lucas?
Okay,
All right, thanks, Lucas.
you're welcome.
Jane, we'll move on with the Community Engagement Committee.
I'm going to ask Linda to handle that since I
Oh,
was not,
sorry,
I was
that's
not
right.
at that meeting.
And I'm going to ask Jessica to take care of that because she took the notes.
No problem.
Delegation of authority. That's how
Yeah,
that
that works. It works for me. So we briefly talked about the Grand Haven Area Visitors Bureau and some Item Explorers Camp promotion. And actually, Marcy Cisneros will be joining us for our next Community Engagement Committee to go into a little bit more detail about how we could potentially partner them to promote the camp. We also discussed our Greenway Interpretive Plan RFP. So essentially working in partnership with Kent County to do interpretation along the entire Greenway, which is super exciting. We got into some updates to Friends of Ottawa County Parks and our agreement with them, and talked about our strategic plan as well. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you might have, but a lot of really good broad conversation. And yeah, you're welcome to chime in. as
And
you'd
I
like.
think it's worth noting, I think that last meeting was when we were talking about the interpretive plan, we really said, Allison, I think, asked, okay, how's it fit in our new strategic plan? Where does that fit as a project? And we kind of talked through how that, fit the goals. So as we, transition and approve that, as we work in our committees and look at our staff reports, we'll try to rebrand those to align with the strategic plan moving forward. So there will be a little bit of transition, but
Mhm.
yeah.
That was a good application of asking that question, right? About how does this thing that we've done in the past fit into moving forward? So it was a very good conversation.
Any other questions? All right, we move on with Finance and Policy. That's you, Linda.
That's me. So I'm going to, pretty much the report's going to stand as it's written because we're going to be talking about almost all of that in new business as we talk about this year's budget and go to approve that. We talked a lot about the business plan for Ottawa Sands. We're going to be talking about a motion to approve that in new business. And then that was pretty much it. The Park Township Lake Access was kind of a smaller talk, a discussion about how that's working right now with the 2 extra parks. And as Bob will, in their report, they started picking up trash, so life's good over there. So I don't really want to go into the details here because there
makes
are
sense.
a ton of details in Brandy's spreadsheets and when we get to those. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Actually, Brandy or Jason will probably be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody? All right, we'll be talking about these items as you said. Great. Jane, do you have a foundation update?
Not much. Jason or Glenn included in his report the breakfast and lunch net donations, which I suspect have gone up. I mean, Angela's here. We probably are close to 70,000, I would bet. which is, yes, the best ever for that event. So
Nice.
that was really successful. The Grand Explorers Trail Race was also broke records in its second year. There were about 350 people registered. And they netted close to 19,000. I'm thinking that maybe has gone up a little bit too. So 2 really successful events, and not that you'll remember, but we've set the dates for next year's events. The breakfast and lunch will be on June 12, and the race will be on June 21. This year, they came kind of close together. Next year, there's a little time in between. So yeah, you'll get lots of reminders about those 2 things. And then the audit is on our agenda today, but the foundation board reviewed that as well. So,
Nice. Good. Any questions for Jane? All right, we will keep moving then to the old business, and the strategic plan draft is up first. So,
This is for information, right?
correct. Yes, this won't have a motion of any kind, but Jason, did you want to touch on any highlights or
So
what
we'll,
status?
just a few, go over some status. So this is a working draft. So if anybody has any questions or comments, we would like to record today and/or anytime in the next couple weeks, feel free to email myself and Aaron an email, and we'll work on that. We'll have a follow-up with our consultant. So I think the vast majority of all the appendixes are in here. So there's lots of information. We'll discuss it at both. I think we have a community engagement meeting this month, so it should be on the agenda for that. And then as well as planning, so we can get into some in-depth
okay.
discussions at the committee meetings in August, if desired. And then we'll be bringing forward what we would like to think of as a final draft to review and have the Parks Commission approve and adopt in August. So happy to go over any of it as you all. I think we've talked quite a bit about it. We're really pretty excited about the one thing that we always use now, and we just talked about it today, we historically haven't had a vision statement. So I think we're kind of already using that because it really seems to align with some of the projects we're working on. So yeah, happy to answer any questions or.
I guess since it's coming, you already answered it, like how we submit comments. If any of the commissioners had
Yes.
any comments to make, to email you, but I'm guessing you'd probably want them by no later than next week? I mean, we don't want to send them to you the day before our
Right.
next commission meeting or whatever,
right.
so.
And then yes, and we'll post it online as well. And we'll get it up online and have a mechanism, whether it's just to our general email, we'll have a mechanism that the public can respond and provide any feedback to.
Okay. So maybe next week. Yeah, go ahead, Lucas. Yeah.
Just one question. Did anything surprise you during this process? Was there any, or was it all fairly predictable in your mind?
Well, I think I think so. Yes. The overwhelming support.
Sorry, that was a tough question.
Well, in a lot of it's right anecdotal. We think of, well, everybody loves the parks, but in the surveys that really came across, and it really came across supporting, continuing our natural resources management and stewardship, and taking a lead on that in the community, as well as getting kids outdoors and
Right.
the importance of that component and how well that resonated kind of through all the public feedback we had. That was really surprising how loudly that came across. I think we all kind of know it and believe it, and that's what we do. And but our community in Ottawa County, I think that's one of the things that makes it great about being here is the community appreciates the natural resources and the parks that we have and values them. So
Thank you.
any other staff? It's a great question for staff in general or.
Mhm. All right. Anyone else?
Well, one other thing. So the Crows, their input is pretty much completed, and then you're just going to modify as.
We'll edit it in conjunction with them, and then they'll be here, I think, next month to do the final presentation.
Oh, okay.
Because they helped do all of the stakeholder engagement and the drafts. We provided lots and lots of feedback, but yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just some overall, I'm always intrigued by graphs and surveys and how they're put together and where the information comes from. So the average reader, if they were to look at this, how were the number of, I'll just give you one example on page 85 of the packet where it says Exhibit 1, annual number of park visits. How is that number determined?
Mm-hmm.
So we subscribe to the Placer subscription that then use mobility data to analyze that.
Okay, and is that all parks in the
So,
county? All
it's-
county parks?
It's, Aaron?
So it's all county parks where based on how they process the data. So it's anonymized data. They do like have a proprietary algorithm. There's a couple companies that do this, and that's used nationally
Mhm.
by other governments and private entities. I think it started really as a thing you did for retail, so when you log on, you can see like, how does this McDonald's do for traffic, or how does Hoffmaster State Park or whatever. So not every park has enough volume to get
Mhm.
a register usage. So it is limited to a certain subset of our parks. It's over 30 parks that it includes.
So
Are you asking about the clarity of like knowing where the numbers come from, like easily finding the citation,
like
right?
when you
Yeah, and
citation
it
on the
comes from-
graph,
Yeah,
like a
Okay.
Yeah,
citation on
like
the graph.
we're-
I
That's
thought- 'cause
just
they
one
have it-
example was on page 85 of, and I'm just using that as one example, like anytime we're using
Exactly.
numbers, anytime we're making graphs, where is that information? How's
There's
it,
an
how's it
endnote.
being?
There's endnotes there, and maybe for whatever reason, they decided to do endnotes at the end of the report. So I'll tell you what page this is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Instead of it being on the
Yes.
page, it's at the very end of the report?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
at the end, because I did that too, because for one, yes, it's on page 32 of the strategic plan. I don't know what page of the packet here.
I'm with Allison. If I'm a community member and I'm going to read this, I'm old. I don't want to read
No,
endnotes anymore.
agreed. I had, yes, so we'll go and ask them to do footnotes instead of endnotes.
Thank you.
Question, Jason, when you said mobility data, where is that derived from?
So
Personal things.
cell phones, mobile phones, mobile
Okay,
devices.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if it was phone pings.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Just a general overall comment. I've been a part of a lot of strategic plans throughout the years, and a lot of times what happens is you go through these processes and you develop a great document with lots of text. I've seen how just the intelligent graphic interaction of data and sort of like the USA Today kind of concept has weaved its way into this. This is a document that people are not going to want to leave on their shelf. They're going to want to put it on their coffee table and refer to, because you're just going to be motivated by the photographs. The information's helpful. So just high praise for graphic team that put this together.
Mm.
Agreed.
And kudos to all of our staff, but Kurt and Jason and Aaron and Jessica and Riley all helped provide feedback on the initial versions of this, and it's pretty exciting to see the product as it's coming along.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, great. Thanks for sharing. And get those comments if you have any in by, I'm going to say next week. So we aren't surprising anybody at the end. All right, so new business, we will move, this is where we will go to the Shoreline Amateur Astronomical Association reimbursement, moving that to item A. And this has been through finance and policy, so.
And the executive committee.
And the executive committee, correct. Yep, good. So do we want to just go ahead and start with a motion?
I'll make the motion as written, and then I can tell you what finance decided or
Support.
suggested.
I'll support.
Great, all right, thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
So we have an agreement with the Shoreline Amateur Astronautical Association, and normally we would not pay for this repair for this telescope that was damaged or broke. I'm not sure which the case is, but after a lot of discussion, if you take a look at the numbers of people that are coming into Hemlock Park to to be engaged with the telescope and the folks that are willing to put the volunteer time in there, we talked at length and thought it was well worth the $990 and some change to have the parks pay for this repair. Somebody might say, why not insurance? Our deductible's $1,000, so it wouldn't meet the deductible. But
Right.
the finance committee, the executive committee recommends that we pay the $990.76 for the repair of the telescope. The guys have been bringing their own telescopes back out into the park like they used to before we had, so none of their programming was slowed down except for weather. So I don't know what you can ask more of the volunteers than that. So we recommend that we pay this bill.
And we do have Frank in the audience. Thank you for coming. Frank, you want to raise your hand? For those who don't, yeah, thank you for attending. So any questions for Frank, Linda, anyone else?
I guess
Yeah, go ahead.
what was the nature of the repair that was
Well,
needed?
out of my pay grade and expertise. But
Okay.
It was,
If you wanted to make any comment, you're welcome to. I think that to simplify it, the motherboard went bad. So it was kind of an unusual, that, isn't heard of. So they were able to secure another, computer and then coordinate the repairs with a expert who does this type of work. So,
we
And
just
it's back up and running, right, Frank? Yeah.
It is back up and running.
Mhm.
The numbers are increasing again on Friday nights. They went down a little bit for the 2-3 months at the instrument.
Mhm.
It's-
Back to normal, and we have made some improvements on the process as well.
It's well
Just wanna
worth it.
say that appreciate very much the you're going to reimburse us for the parts that we have to buy.
Mhm.
Also wanted to let you know that several members spend many hours disassembling, troubleshooting, arguing with the manufacturer, and talking to people throughout the country, trying to get some input from them as to the best way to do it. So again,
Great.
yes, this was an extremely unusual trouble that developed. In all my years of working with telescopes, I never had this kind of catastrophe.
Yeah,
But again, thank you so very much.
thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to 11B, the 2024 budget adjustment for the benches, the Memorial Bench Program. And this one has also been through Finance and Policy, just to mention that. Oh, no, I've lost my spot. Do we have a motion or did we want to? Go ahead
I'll
and-
make that motion as
Okay,
written in the packet.
okay, thank you.
Second?
Okay, thank you, Allison. All right, do we need any further discussion? Linda, is there anything you wanted to say about this coming from finance? Or Jason?
I'm
Either
going to let
one?
Jason do
Okay.
this one.
and Bob can answer any questions but the foundation, we coordinate with the foundation. The foundation sells our commemorative or memorial benches. and then we install them and submit them at the end of the fiscal year, a request for reimbursement that covers the materials and a little bit of our labor costs. And so we sold more than we have the inventory for. This will allow us to go ahead and get working on ordering those. It sounds like from conversations today, we actually will have some more that we'll need to order as well. So this just allows us to continue to install them. So at the 1.6 mile loop around Ottawa Sands, for example, we proactively put bench pads. And so it sounds like, maybe by the end of the year, we'll have all those sold too. So it'll be great.
If for those who don't, it's kind of a pass-through issue is what it is,
Yeah.
being prepared and then a pass-through of
Yeah.
money.
And this just allows us to buy the inventory.
Great. Any other questions? All right, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. All right, next we have the 2025 Parks budget. And Finance and Policy has been reviewing this for months. So we'll go ahead. Do we want to go ahead with a brief summary first? Or do someone care to make a motion up front?
I'll make the motion for
Okay.
approval.
Great, thanks, Roger.
Support.
Thanks, Linda. All right. Do we want to go over highlights?
Yes.
Jason? Okay.
So just, there are a couple memos that highlight a lot of information, the things that I made a list of notes. So just to point out, the 2025 budget will include the full Idaho Explorers Camp. So that was an increase of 480,000 in revenue and a little over 190,000 in expenses. We saw significant increase in investment on interest and investment. So we had the CIP, the funding for several large CIP projects over $6 million hit our fund balances. So that's the return on investment, a little over 175,000. We saw 6% cost of living increase. So that, plus we had seasonal wage adjustments. So those were 168,000 for the cost of living adjustments and 171,000 and change for the seasonals. But as you've heard from Neely and I think Bob, this is one of our better years for filling our seasonal staffing positions. So I'm not sure what's helped with that, but maybe that's part of it. You'll notice, especially as you look at from 1 year to the next, so between 23 and 24, and then to 25, there was a considerable jump in the total expenses. And that in large part is due to, we have our transfer out. So in 2024, we had a much smaller transfer out, which goes to our CIP. So it transfers out of our operating budget into the CIP. So, and then it's back up again in 2025. We also noted when 2023, that was finally closed out and the final audited amount, we came in considerably, our fund balance was considerably larger than we had originally budgeted for. So about 1.4, almost $1.5 million. So that was due in large part to an initial estimated fund balance that was under budgeted. So and we also note, we anticipate as we close on the Bend area that we'll ask for part of that to be allocated to that land acquisition. So a few new personnel changes. So we added a new seasonal position, or 1,000 hours for NRM, Natural Resources Management. We reclassified one of our seasonal positions in the North Zone and added a program lead to community engagement. The new CIP projects For 2025, we have the Kirk Park Dune Stairs, we have a Gross Park Playground improvements, and Eastmanville Connector Idema Explorers Trails segment. So those will all be new 25 CIPs. And then we include all of the existing current capital projects. So we have about 18 million allocated for our capital improvement projects that are in various stages of completion. And then we have ongoing $462,670,000 allocated for what we call capital projects maintenance. So projects that would be under 50,000 that we allocate for maintenance projects. So some of those, as you can see, we allocate, but we're holding them until till we actually need to do them. So for example, let's see, a good example. So the Spring Grove playground upgrade, we made some general improvements there, but we'll hold that 38,000 until we really feel like repairs or replacement are needed. So it's just as we talk about long-term, kind of making sure we have funding allocated for our existing infrastructure. This is a large part of that. So we have funding set aside for gravel maintenance and rehab, as well as asphalt maintenance and rehab. So those are existing. We talked about the new CIP projects, and then we have the CIP projects that were identified in the rec plan. So those are all, some of them we moved out, but we have some CIP projects that are identified actually through 2029 initially. So each year we determine whether or not we can undertake those. Do we need to adjust the budgets? Is there funding? And then move forward appropriately. The recreation plan also identifies some of those CI or CPM, so the maintenance projects. So we have placeholders each year for things like pit toilet renovations, general renovations, accessibility improvements, native landscaping and restoration. So each year we allocate funding directly to those maintenance projects, is what we call them. So new ones that we're adding, we have work for the highway sign or the 31 billboard, doing some exterior work on the Weaver House. I think later on we actually have the roof work is added also. And then we have the Eastmanville barn painting. So that's come up a couple times in conversations, and we've held off a couple years. So that will be budgeted in 2025, as well as the feasibility to evaluate the structure of the Eastmanville barn. So that's in our 25 recommendations. And doing some dog park improvements, trying to proactively address some of the areas that get muddy. So because of their use so much. And we include a list of funding or projects that we have identified, whether it's staff or commissioners, that we're saying, well, we're holding on to these. They didn't move up necessarily to a priority at this time, but we are aware they're there. And so.
I just want to add a couple of things. So first of all, I want to thank Roger because he's on the finance committee. Do you chair the finance committee for the county or not? But he's on it and he gives us lots of feedback, and Allison did the same thing last year. So a lot of this has been thought through with what the county commissioners will think about as we move through. And we always have representation there besides Jason. I also want to thank Brandy because Brandy's our finance person, and I'm pretty sure that we are one of the unique groups to do budgeting for because, well, it's the parks and it's kind of the fun and we want to play. So I want to thank you for being there. So we started this process back really in March. So we hadn't really even gotten finished with with last year's budget before we started moving through. So I'm not one to want to look at how much the pencils are going to cost. If you're so interested in knowing that, we can get you that information. But we're certainly happy to answer any of the big items because things kind of move in and out as the year progresses with, something might break that we have to get done right away versus something that we don't have to get done right away. So there's just lots of that. So it's a pretty well thought out process.
I'm pretty sure that pencil line item is in here.
I know it is. And I know that you will find it and ask about it.
So the other thing that, one of, I think, the unique things, and I'll let Brandy come up and speak, but the last page of our budget packet is our long-range budget projection. So as all the staff, Bob and Jason and Jessica and Neely and Kurt, they all work really hard on our operating budget and our capital budget and our maintenance budget. I kind of wait until the end to really look at the long-range budget projections. So this, if you note, it looks at the fiscal year. This was included and will be included in the future in some form or format as we undergo our recreation plan. So this looks at, operating expense, revenues coming in, personnel costs, supplies, contract services, and then evaluates those and looks at our fund balance at the end of the levy cycle. So, that's kind of important, right, as we approach a levy and something that might, the residents could say no to. So we want to make sure that we have funding at least for one operating season on hand. We might have to cut way back to a skeleton crew if it didn't, if something didn't pass, but we could do that. So. Brandy, any highlights? And this will then be rolled up into the Board of Commissioners overall packet that goes in with the county budget.
I promise you I wouldn't be afraid to walk up here, but I don't have anything additional to add. If you guys have questions, I'm more than welcome. I'm more than happy to answer questions, but you covered majority of what.
Well, thank you for all your work. But Roger, did you have a question or?
I just wanted to comment. I didn't want to let this one pass, but on the equipment side, don't forget that I lobbied hard for that bucket truck.
Yeah.
And I didn't even talk about the equipment that's included. So it does include a truck replacement, a new truck for NRM.
But not the bucket.
Yeah.
Not the bucket. It includes the, I think the sterns, we put in an automatic gate, or Connor. So that one didn't make it in.
I think it was Grand River.
Oh, okay.
I think
so-
that's the one that they chose, not Connor.
So the county has an equipment capital fund that we can leverage then to buy large equipment and then pay it off over, I think it's 5 years. So that's really nice that we can do that. Although we don't always get everything that we would want to ask for. So then we determine what, if anything, needs to be added into the operating budget. So for example, we are purchasing an electric utility vehicle for Ottawa Sands, and that's built into the regular operating budget. So.
It's very thorough.
Mhm.
And we tried to keep all the high level stuff in there so you can see it and compare it and look from year to year and see what goes where.
Good. Final thoughts, questions? All right, so Roger made the motion to approve the proposed 2025 budget as presented. Linda has seconded that and supported it, so we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hi.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries, or budget is approved, I should say. All right, the next item we have up is the Rosie Mound Master Plan Consultant recommendation. We have the submittal from MC Smith Group for the professional design services to the master plan, the property expansion at Rosie Mound Natural Area in the amount of $49,950. And hopefully you guys got the attachment, and it looks like it's on this yellow sheet as well, the additional page to the packet. So this is kind of a bid tab. Actually, the executive committee did discuss this
We did,
bid, but we
yes.
didn't have the bid sheet yet, just to be completely transparent here. So we're seeing the bid sheet the same time as you all, but so yeah, since this is kind of new, do you want to, I don't know, Aaron, Jason, somebody give a, do you, if someone wants to make a motion before, we can go ahead and do that. Or if we want to have an external report before we make a motion, we can do that as well.
Which one would you like?
I would prefer the external report first,
Okay.
since it's a little bit new for most of us here.
So just overall though, in order to understand this, as we built the budget for the acquisition and expansion, in order to allow a public master planning process that would be complete in time to make next year's grant cycles, we need to start it relatively soon, even though we haven't necessarily closed on the property yet. And the property owners, we've agreed to all of the terms and conditions. We're just waiting on the final paperwork to be finalized before we move forward with closing. So that's the reason why the timeliness of this today. So Aaron, do you want to go over the process and the various proposals?
Yeah, we put out, Kurt developed an RFP with some of the background about the property and like the previous master plan for Rosie Mound and the concept plan that's you've seen before with some of the initial improvements. So some of it, kind of some of the work's already done, because I think it will confirm those initial improvements, I think, that are kind of common sense things you would do as far as the trail system. This will be like to confirm that, get strong cost estimates, and then do some of the maybe more speculative things, give another review of, besides these initial trail improvements that are currently in the capital campaign, things like the concept of the Dude Education Center, what we do for restoration or to enhance the ecology of the former sand mine. So yeah, 6 proposals that we received. They were all, when we did, there was a question about, they all came in under budget. The budget was 50,000. They had a question, when they had vendor questions, somebody asked that, so Kurt said a max of 50,000. We also had a site visit. I wasn't there that day, so I'm not sure of all the firms that showed up for the site visit to discuss it, but they did have an opportunity there. So this isn't not a bid, it's a request for proposal, so we're considering the holistically, the proposal and the strengths of the proposals. So you'll see that the recommended firm, MCSA, it's not the least expensive, but overall it's the highest quality proposal.
Good. All
And
right.
some of the things, right, that played into that were experience in dunes. So this is a pretty unique site for us. So really looking at a consultant who could perform the master planning process, but then also put together, good at cost estimates associated then coming out of that for us to use moving forward was really important. So yeah, this is actually the first time MC Smith or MCSA, they've done a few other things for us, but this is the first master plan process since I've been here. So.
All right, we have enough information if someone would like to make the motion.
So moved?
Okay, thanks, Lucas.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
I just had a
Oh, yeah,
comment
go
as
ahead,
well.
Roger, sure.
In the information provided on this yellow sheet here, if you kind of break down the hours allocated, I know the MCSA group shows, as far as the fees concerned, but if you look at the hours they allocated, you're getting more for the dollar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is my end of my 4th year on the commission. And that is by far the best, that was the best put together package of who they are and what they can do. And I left no doubt. I thought that they looked like outstanding.
Any other questions?
And it looks
comments?
like, according to the pros, they did previous master plan in the phase 1 of construction at Rosie Mountain. So
Mhm.
I'm
Yep.
guessing that you were pretty pleased with their work. So
Good. Any other discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Say nay. All right, motion carries.
One thing I'll add is, and to that, this is going to be a pretty condensed process, as Jason was saying. So we're going to,
Yeah.
And it'll be, right, augmenting the existing master plan to incorporate this new 127 acres. So
that's another benefit I can say. They're doing 5 master plans right now for the city of Muskegon on a condensed
Oh, are they really?
schedule, so
Jeez.
they can do that. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, good to know. All right, excellent. So we're moving along here, the grant status report. I think I'd just like to leave that as is. I always appreciate that. That's a good snapshot in where we are. There's a few updates on there, but I don't think we need to, unless people have specific questions on any items on there, we'll kind of let that stand as
And
presented.
it's, I'm sure it's helpful for you all, but it's also staff. We put our heads together and make sure
Right.
we all
Yeah,
are
that's
staying
super
up to-
helpful. Super. A lot of juggling, a lot of balls in the air at the same time. All right, moving along to the Item Explorers Trail Stearns Bayou Connector Grant Agreement Amendment. And this looks like it's just a date extension. We're changing the date, correct, on
Correct.
that? So we did talk about this briefly at the executive committee, since it's just a date change. But do we have anyone who would like to make that suggested motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Do we have support?
second?
Okay, thanks, Allison. All right, any questions on that? Kind of just a formality. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. All right, the Item Explorers Camp Business Plan is the next item on here. And this has been looked at, what, a couple times by Finance and Policy? Two,
And
three?
And community engagement
Community
and
engagement.
everybody.
That's right, community engagement too.
At least
So hopefully
twice.
everyone's seen it. But we can go over it, but we do, since everyone's a little bit familiar, we do have a suggested motion in case anyone would like to make that right up front here.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
Second.
All right, thank you, Roger. All right, highlights. Do we want to, I don't have this right up in front of me. Who wants to? I know Jason Berger was quite involved with these
Oh,
discussions
and you
as
know
well,
what?
but he's
He
not
was-
in.
He's going to
He-
be remote.
He was,
Oh, okay.
it was easiest just to call him, and then if there were any questions that Bob or I couldn't answer,
I don't think we need to call him.
well, he's expecting my call.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and hey,
So we went over this.
can
in
you mute
finance.
your computer, Jason?
We went over this in finance and policy, I think 3 times actually. And Jason did a really good job of looking at what we should rent the things for, the finance end of it. And then we're only doing 60% of the revenue. That's the only thing that we're not doing a full, we're not being that optimistic.
65, I think.
Yeah.
65%, I'm sorry. And then the other thing is, we all went through like kind of the rules. And what I found interesting about the process of that was people that I thought would be not in favor of some rules were very much in favor of like, we should be able to do that. And other people were like, no, I don't think we should. So we had a very robust conversation about what to allow, what not to allow. And I think that it's our first year and we're going to see what works. And this time next year, we may be saying, no, we shouldn't do that, or we can let the whole thing go loose. I mean, I think I think Jason has done a really good job of figuring out what we can do and what we can't.
And I would say it's been, again, a team effort. Jason's been the one who's been presenting it, but all of the staff, Bob and Jeremy, and a lot of folks have played a role into it. I think, we were trying to, let me get the phone. So, no, you're all right. So we really evaluated kind of the target market, set some SMART goals that align with the organization's mission, goals and objectives. So then each year we'll develop a end of the year report that will show us how we did, you know, from this business plan. So we know things, right? It'll be a fluid process. We might have to make adjustments, but it's pretty exciting. I think the couple of things that are worth noting, the pricing, we tried to be competitive, but the goal is that this campground financially supports itself. And then also the other operations and maintenance in Ottawa Sands. So, as a reminder, this acquisition happened, the whole acquisition of the property wasn't part of our initial millage plan, and it's pretty incredible that it worked out. We think we're really excited about, it's over $8.5 million worth of restoration projects and access improvements, as well as this. The vast majority of that's been through philanthropic dollars or grants. And then we really hope that the business model here will help then long-term support it, as well as the rest of that park operation. So, and it also includes funding that will be set aside for future maintenance, renovations, construction is built in. So that's about, I think we estimate a minimum 50,000 each year coming in from the proceeds being set aside when we need to renovate or repair or have another project. So.
Questions, comments from anybody?
No, just one comment. I think that the point about generating the revenue that will be sufficient to maintain it and, fund other things, that was of particular interest to the foundation as well. And they were very pleased to hear that was included in the business model, because this was shared a little bit with them as well. So just the overview. So I think that's an important point to make.
Thanks, Jane. Anyone else?
Just an observation. It was fun going through the planning of this and anticipating what this environment is going to be like. What are the social norms that happen, and how best do we take care of it? So I think years from now, I think all of us involved in this, especially the staff, it's going to be kind of neat to, hey, remember we talked about how we thought this was going to go, and so very, very cool. Feel very privileged to be a part of that.
Yeah, you guys did a lot of work on this for sure.
Well, the commission, I think and again, it's one of these projects that the commission really weighed in on and helped us with some of the tough decisions. Pets, where are pets going to be allowed in the campground? And so we have some of our tent areas, but they won't necessarily be allowed in the buildings. We talked about alcohol, how we would handle that, or even smoking, right? Is it allowed in the campground? Or so we worked through those. So I think we have a great plan. It includes the rules, but then we also included our standard. Again, kudos to Jeremy Cook, he came through and developed our standard operating procedures. So we'll use this as a training tool or to answer some of the questions. Throughout this process, we talked about, well, how are we going to manage? Is somebody going to be there on site? In essence, we'll have people there from 10 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. We also, after getting feedback from commissioners, we added a pad, so we'll be able to have one RV there to serve if we can recruit a camp host. And then that would be a volunteer position as a camp host, very similar to what state parks or other county campgrounds do. And then we worked with HR on having somebody on call who will have a phone, and making sure that we can do that and they're compensated appropriately. So, all that was part of the process, and we're really excited on where we are with it. Jason, anything else? I don't know how much you've been able to hear. Anything else you want to say?
No, I can hear you great. No, I guess the big part is, this whole time we've been figuring this whole thing on guessing that we were going to have 65% occupancy. But as you can see, even with 40% occupancy and holding 50,000 back for maintenance, we're still anticipating $100,000 over our expenses at the year. But my guess is we will be closer to 75% occupancy. So I think we're going to be between that 100% and 65% number.
Thanks, Jason. So we're happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Alice.
Probably just still one. Do you have any way that you've put in your rules of safeguarding? So if there's a violation of one of the rules, do you have a way to regain compensation for it, such as if there's smoke damage, for example, and they do choose to smoke inside the places where you're saying that they're not allowed to? Are we putting that in writing that they would be responsible for costs? Legally speaking, I'm just making sure that
So we'll have a
Putting our eyes
deposit,
in.
we'll have a deposit tied to any of the stays. So that will be, and that I don't think is, Jason, are deposits laid out in here?
They are not. If you would like, I can add it. So if you pass this today, you could pass it with the understanding that we're going to add a section on deposits if you would like, and then we can add that later. And if you want.
And that's how we have our facility rentals for our indoor facilities have a deposit. So then after the rental is complete, staff give the go ahead to our admin team and they process a deposit release.
So it would really be consistent with existing
Yes.
policy.
great. I would assume that would get added then before it proceeds to the Board of Commissioners. The deposit information is what Jason was talking about.
So we can add it. This typically wouldn't go to the board for
Okay.
review and approval. So once you guys approve it, but we can add language to replicate what we do with our indoor facilities.
Okay.
So,
As long as it's covered and you guys, that's my
yes.
biggest concern. So-
Linda, and this is a little important, but since you made the motion, would you be okay amending the language so it would read something?
With a
Or
caveat.
like, I don't know, so it would be to
Approve.
approve the item Explorers Camp Business Plan, including proposed fees and
With the
rules.
inclusion of a policy on deposits.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll include that
I'm fine
language
with
in
that.
next
It's the
month's
standard
packet.
county policy on deposits.
So you all can see it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing this down. Roger, are you okay supporting that revised motion?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So with that revised language, any other last comments, questions? All right, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. All right. Yeah, thanks, Jason, for calling in. We have one final new business, which is the Ottawa County Parks Foundation 2023 audit and financial standing. And that's really just for us to accept that, and I know Glenn isn't able to give this. so-
But Angela's here today, the
Okay, great,
foundation
Angela.
manager. So this
Sorry, I
is,
should have known.
and I'll give it just a quick, so the foundation, part of our MOU, but is just this, that they present the audit as well as their annual report when it's done. But they because they have proceeds over 275,000, they have a annual audit every year. So it's good business practice. They hire an outside accountant to do the audit the books and then file the paperwork. So, I think the language in the cover sheet includes most of it. And then Angela is here to answer any questions anybody has.
I actually have one question. This is for information only because we have
But I
no-
think we have to have a motion before we start discussing.
You want to do it on this one too? You want to do this one first or that one? Like we did last time? Chat first in motion or motion first in chat?
Well, no, not chat. You can have an external report before you make a motion,
Okay.
but as long as the commissioners aren't talking about it.
We're
Sorry.
not, we're not accepting their audit. That's my problem with this. There is no motion to accept. They present, that's my problem.
Oh, it should be for information.
It's for
only.
information only. We don't
So
have.
the issue with that is that then it doesn't go into our official records as a motion. So it doesn't mean that you approve it. It's just accepting it as
I
presented.
think we've
That's
done
up to you.
every year. Done it every year.
And that would be, and I asked this question last year, so I guess I'm going to keep asking it. They are their own 501c3, which my brain is not working at the moment. Why is it that they don't just give this to us and say, here it is? And why do we have to, I still don't grasp that. I guess I'm a little slow.
So accepting it is just then putting it in the record that it was presented and accepted. It's not
think it's
approving it. It's different
Official
than,
acknowledgement that the foundation provided us with this information.
Did we vote on any other of the for information only motions?
I think it's different from information only. It's a slightly different
so
procedure.
that's if in 5 years I go back to, there will be a motion that we can find then that ties that it was presented. And
Okay.
that's really the only reason is, and that was something that, we can debate and it was.
Can, and we
it was-
probably will for another year.
Well,
and a half.
and that was my
I
suggestion.
totally see what you're
right?
saying.
That
Yeah.
it's part of the MOU between the two, and then it puts it in record that it happened, not that it was approved. So
Mhm.
Do you have a particular
I think it
problem
makes,
with that?
I think,
term?
my concern is, for me, it makes it seem like we have to approve their work. They do their own work,
Right.
but they're doing work on behalf of the parks and the Parks Commission.
but
So
they
the
could
fun-
do it for anybody else they wanted to. They're their
So
own
Their bylaws are formed
Right.
to support Ottawa County
to
Parks.
support, but they
Right.
could support another park
So,
in
and if they're
Ottawa County.
holding our funding for projects that we fundraise for, it is 100% acceptable that they present, and we should ask that this be presented so that the Parks Commission knows that the foundation, just like if we ask them to pay something, we need to be able to show, yes, we did this project. So it's that mutual agreement between the two. They have a right to know that we're doing projects just like the same, right? So it's a mutual relationship.
Yeah,
So-
the word accept does not mean approve. I accept that I
Okay.
have wrinkles on my face, but I don't approve of it. So it's just acknowledging reality.
I think it's really important that we all understand, we don't have a say in what they do and we have a say in
Right.
how we relate with one of them. But when Angela makes this report,
Right.
there's no conversation about, hey, how come you spent that extra $22?
Well, I guess to add one thing that's a little, being a direct support organization, for instance, on Thursday, I'm going to participate in the Finance Committee meeting for the Parks Foundation. They're going to ask for guidance for me on how cash flow will work and investments will work. And these are major decisions that staff is providing guidance to.
You're providing information.
Not just information, they're going to make decisions. So this directly impacts up because their investment policy.
But it's
that the
their,
proceeds
Aaron,
go-
it's their decision.
It's their
They
decision
can
how
take your advice or not.
Well, there's a contract on the Grand River Greenway.
Okay, well,
Funding. There there is a contract on the Grand River Greenway money, so it's committed as our funding. We're providing, it's a conversation, it's a mutual thing, but yeah, that money that's invested, that was
But they're
donated
also
for that
prov-
project
But
is,
they're also providing money.
right, I'm
Right,
just
so
saying,
they're in a lot of cases matching money.
I'm just saying the relationship, they're independent, but there is a very mutual relationship, and there's funding that's defined by other contracts beyond just the MOU that this is directly relevant to this
I'm
audit.
good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the foundation's audit letter and statement of financial position.
Second?
All right. Thanks. So we have a motion by Jane and a second by Lucas. Any further questions, or it's good discussion? So questions, comments? Yeah, Allison, go ahead.
I just wondered if Angela or anyone had any highlights that you wanted to mention, either that were already in our packet or that were not. If there was anything that stood out to you, highlights of any kind.
The only thing I would point out, and that was mentioned in the front of the packet, was the net assets without donor restrictions. That does include investment income. And we do have a policy for how the investment income is spent. But that is included in the undesignated funds. So, and the cash and cash equivalents. So just wanted to make note of that number. That is quite a bit higher. Investments did really well last year.
Good.
And they're doing really well right now.
And then the funds that do have restrictions. So there are funds for the Grand River Greenway, Ottawa Sands, Rosie Mound, nature education support, and then the dog park. So.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to highlight, Angela, or? Okay. Good. Any other questions for Angela? Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. All right, so we have Jane and Lucas making the motion, so we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. All right, this brings us to our second opportunity for public comment. And since we don't have any new folks, David, if you would like to, we can give you 3 minutes if you'd like to go ahead and come on up there. You might have to bend the microphone towards yourself. I noticed it's pointing straight up, but just so everybody can, as long as we can hear you, go ahead.
I have intention to bend the microphone because they're new. I wanted to point out something that a lot of people don't know about microphones. If this were an omnidirectional microphone and you approach it like this, like an ice cream cone, it would work fine. But as you can probably tell, it's not working fine. If it were a unidirectional microphone, you have to treat it like it's a flashlight and point it at your face. Does it work? Is it working better now? Or did it work both the same way?
It's worked the same.
The same? So this is an omnidirectional microphone. So I did not expect that, but it is an omnidirectional microphone. So now we know. I didn't want to test that. So that's not the reason I got up here though. The reason I got up here was I'm surprised. I was surprised when I came in to find out that you're being broadcast on YouTube. I did not know that. And I went and I looked through all the different places because I'm pretty good at sniffing things out on the on My Ottawa Facebook or on My Ottawa website and finding things, because I found a lot of different things that have changed over the years, and I found corrections, and I did not know that. And since I sat down here, I found out the usual places where I would have discovered that. I did not find it there. You have your own YouTube channel, which I did not know, and it all started in January. You've been recording these since January. I did not know that. And the places I usually would have discovered it have all changed since they've reorganized the My Ottawa page. So I found them, and as I look at your page there, I see right now there's only 3, and the highest I've been watching, the highest number of people watching today has only been 4. And so I'll wager it was not Shannon's fault, Shannon Feldner's fault. She probably put it out. And so it's probably my fault that I missed it, but so I'm surprised, but I was surprised that I missed finally that you started broadcasting these on YouTube. So maybe she could put that up. I missed it.
Okay, thank you.
So our meetings have always been broadcast for a number of years, since COVID, but they had been done over Zoom. And in January, we switched to YouTube and then are publishing them.
Yeah. And okay.
Yep. So.
All right, great, thank you. We will move on to Commissioner's prerogative. We'll start on that end. Roger? Do you have anything?
Oh, it's just been a pleasant summer weather-wise. I don't know. I know Muskegon had gotten hit pretty hard with a storm, and I just didn't know if there was a lot of damage in some of our parks from some of those winds.
We did, in early June. There was a pretty good windstorm that kind of hit more of the northern section. The Muscatawa Trail got hit pretty hard. I believe in the 109 total trees, 37, I think, came just on the Muscatawa Trail. So we did have quite a bit of cleanup. As far, I tracked the weather in my report to Jason, and Muskegon County through that area had 75-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So that hit pretty good. And I think there was one other park, Riverside, maybe it was, that had a lot also of trees that came down. Significant thing, gross, we did have a large pine tree come down and take out a railing and boardwalk that we had just rebuilt about a year and a half ago. So we're gonna have to repair that one.
Yeah, thanks for the update. Bruce?
I don't have anything particular.
Okay, Lucas?
Just a quick North Bank Trail update.
Sure.
So the Friends received a $250,000 donation. And so they approached the Crockery Township Board to suggesting that they use that donation because it was earmarked for Crockery Township only. And so the Friends are going to basically give those dollars to Crockery Township. They've agreed to match another 150,000 to complete the restoration of the 2 trestles going over Crockery Creek. So that work
really?
is being engineered right now. So that's a mile east of Nunica. And so somewhere, hopefully in the next year, the next mile of the North Bank Trail will be completed out to Crockery Creek. So those are kind of the two gems, I guess you'd say, of the trail section. So
Great. Good.
That's all I had.
Okay, great. Jane?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Linda?
Nothing for me.
All right, Jim? Allison?
Just something over the season through the whole strategic planning, I've really come to recognize even more the amount of staff hours and the investment that is put into parks. And it's just a wonder. I wondered if there might be a place for highlights every once in a while to help us as a Parks Commission to get to know the staff better, even just to have something in a packet of like a highlight sometimes of some of your parks. How many staff do you have in parks, Jason? Do you know how many?
Not off the top of my head, so we're
On executive time, the last time I checked,
up over 130.
100 and I think it was 136.
Or even just highlighting a certain department at a time. It might be kind of neat to, I've really appreciated getting to know more of the staff throughout the planning, and I don't want to lose that. It's been a neat process. So just anything that we can do we do a good job, I think, of engaging the community as a whole. And I think engaging with one another is really important too. So it's just a brainstorm moment.
No, and I think kudos to Jessica and her team, so that July's Parks and Rec month, and they've been highlighting Parks employees on, at least on the Instagram page, so.
It's been pretty fun on Facebook
Yeah.
and Instagram.
But how about this? We try to recruit a new employee every month who doesn't normally attend the Parks Commission meeting
Oh,
to,
they'll love
to
that.
come and attend, as long as they're comfortable being introduced. We have some who probably like to be in the background, but yeah, that way, so we'll just put it on every month to invite a new person, so.
And it gives us a good chance to reach out if their name is brought forward, to reach out and send them an email of encouragement. So, because their name's brought forward.
Yep.
It's funny, my comment is actually kind of in line with, because I was going to say, I appreciate the posts because it reminds me, especially when it's 95 and, Neely, your team, and then the volunteers, the park staff, Bob, your guys' staff's just out there doing all of this backbreaking, hard, sweaty. I think it goes underappreciated a lot of times, but it's like, who's out there replacing the bridge, up to their neck in muck and, sweating, in a remote location. And it's really neat to be able to see that and go, yeah, geez, that's happening every single day. And, give people the shout outs and, even if Facebook, or social media or Instagram posts of like, hey, good job, guys, kind of thing is really great. So you guys seem like you have a great staff this year. So it's
They
encouraging.
did that erosion mark at Hemlock. I think it was like 100% humidity.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So good deal.
My favorite was Tom Tuesday.
Tom Tuesday was great.
Obviously.
Leona and the waiters in the middle, that was good.
That was at Papa. That was a good day. There was a lot of mud.
So one thing before we close, and if everybody can make a note of it, and then Kyle, if we can make sure and get an invite sent out to the commissioners. So August 14th at 3:30, we'll have the Parks Commission will have staff there at Ottawa Sands, and we will invite the Parks Commission as well as our foundation board just to tour it. So, and
We
we'll
just
send
show
out.
up.
I'm sorry?
We just show up. at
Just show up.
3:30?
Okay.
There won't be a formal agenda. We'll do it, we'll highlight some of the projects, ongoing projects, but, and
Friends coming too?
we'll
The
invite friends
group?
also.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
I think we talked about this, but having these events where everybody gets to get together, I know everyone won't be able to make it, but having friends there in the foundation and the commission and the staff, kind of thing would be great if you guys can make it. So,
And Judy's actually the one who pinned me down on a date. So,
yeah, nice. Okay, great. All right, that being said, we will wrap it up. So we need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll move that.
Okay, thanks, Bruce.
Support.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Sorry, but, okay, yep, we'll go ahead and we'll do roll call, but thank you to the audience. We'll have to shut it down if it hasn't, or end the live stream as well and move into closed session.
if you want, you don't have to.